Good morning, dear children. This is Manik Shah from KKS in Amarkantak. Dear children, today we shall learn about the role of the Jacobins Club. So, in my previous classes, dear children, we had the discussions that the revolutionaries were continuously spreading the ideas of nationalisms all throughout the European countries. It was their main motto as well as their main ambitions to liberate the peoples from these monarchy systems and to establish the democratic systems in the societies. And by having the missions of spreading the ideas of nationalisms all throughout the European countries, the revolutions movement which was started all throughout the European countries, and when it was spreading to all over the nations, we see the formations of the Jacobins clubs, which was made by the middle classes, the students, the lecturer, the teachers, who started setting these Jacobins clubs in France. So when they started setting these Jacobin clubs, there also they started propagating the ideas of nationalisms all throughout the European countries. So dear children, their campaigns as well as their activities is to prepare the way for the armies so that they will move into Holland, they will move into Belgium, move into Switzerland, and continuously they will spread the ideas of nationalisms as well as the ideas to have the modern states in all European countries. So that is the reasons we see the formations of the Jacobin clubs in 1719. In 1719, we see the formations of the Jacobin clubs. It was formed by the middle classes peoples with the intentions to spread the ideas of nationalisms. And as they started spreading the ideas of nationalisms all throughout the nations, then just after the 1 year, the main revolutionary leaders, Robespierre, who came into power in 1791. In 1791, we see the new leaders known as Robespierre, who is coming into power, and when he came into power, he destroyed the discriminations which was there in the society between rich and poor. During the time of kings and emperor, the priorities was given to the higher community, the middle classes as well as the lower classes. Their rights were denied in the societies. Those peoples were not given priorities in the societies. So such kind of discriminations which was there in the society. There was no equality. So when Robespierre, when he came into power, dear children, here we understood that he destroyed the discriminations which was prevalent between rich and poor. And when he started the new revolutionaries government, during that time he regulated the market systems, reduced the prices values, and he said that the good quality products should be available to all the peoples in the society rather than higher values will be there in the society. He used to exaggerate as well as he used to say that the goods should be within the reach of the community. And that is the reasons when he came into power and changes the administrative systems, the peoples were living there during those times in France, they used to like more and more because he was having a very strict policy. His policy was very strict. He eliminated the prices values, he reduced the prices values, introduced the new administrative systems, he destroyed the discrimination systems, he incorporated some of the democratic values which was prevalent during the time of revolutions, and that is the reasons the peoples who are living there, they used to like more and more his policy. He started eliminating those peoples who do not like his policy, because his policy was very strict policy. There are some peoples who used to support him, there are some peoples who used to criticize him, and those who criticize him, he introduced a system to punish those peoples who criticize him. He introduced a system called guillotine. So one who is going to disobey his law, those persons will be beheaded here. So it is not necessary that all peoples in the society will follow the same rules which are being enacted by the government. So when Robespierre, he enacted a new policies, there are some people who supported him, some people who disliked him. So in order to eliminate these people who are against him, he introduced a new system called guillotine, and according to that systems, those people who are against him will be beheaded here. Later, due to his extremisms, due to his strict policy, there are some peoples in the society who used to have dissatisfactions, who used to be very dissatisfied with his policies, only because of the extremisms he made during the period of 1791 to 1793. And when he was making such kind of superior policy to follow his policy during his ruling period, people who disliked him, and in 1793 he himself was beheaded here. So this was the situations, as well as we see the roles of the Jacobins clubs. So dear children, at the initial period, the Jacobin clubs were doing a very great jobs for the betterment of the community, betterment of the society, incorporated some of the democratic values, and he used to exaggerate that all these democratic values should be followed very strictly in the society. Due to extremism policies made by these Robespierre, that made him unpopular, and he was beheaded in 1793. So dear children, as the Robespierre, when he was beheaded, during that time a new system came into being, that is the directory rules. What do you understand by directory rules? Basically, directory rules means the one person who is having all authority in the government. Then after we understand that, we see when this directory rules, when it came into being, we see the 4 different groups who came into beings, and from this all 4 different groups who were having representatives, and when they were having these representatives from all these groups, they were running the government by having different representatives from each groups. They were running the government here. So dear children, as the time which was passing on, we see the motto as well as the missions of this directory rule is to spread the ideas of nationalism movements, as well as to make the nation states all over the European countries, rather than to make the kingdoms for the rulers here. And during these periods, we see the prominent roles of Napoleon Bonaparte, who was leading the army. He was the army generals, and he was giving protections to the nations here, and he was playing a very prominent roles during the most needy time which the France society was having. And when he became the army generals, he led the nations. Then he waged war against Italy, Belgium, Switzerland, as well as with Holland. And By seeing his great personalities as well as the leadership quality, peoples were welcoming him, peoples were praising him. They were saying that Napoleon is one of the greatest leaders of the society who is giving great leadership to the army here. And when he is giving the great leadership quality here, we see that the directory rules which is going to be failure in the society. And when the directory rules which is going to be failure in the society, during the failure of these directory rules which made him to come into powers. And when he came into powers, he changed the administrative systems. He incorporated some of the democratic values of the society. He developed the democratic structures in the government. He had simplified the administrative systems. So when Napoleon came into powers, we see the several changes which taken place in France society. It was during his times he simplified the administrative systems, and when he simplified the administrative system, during that time the French society, who were having all kinds of rights, all kind of democratic values, and the peoples who used to enjoy the life during the time of Napoleon Bonaparte, because he was one of the great leaders who understood the difficulties of the peoples, who used to give better administrations to the peoples, and he introduced some of the administrative systems in the society. That is what we are going to learn details and as well as we are going to learn in details one by one. So dear children, as I was telling you that during the most needy time, the Napoleon who came into power and he became the dictator of the society. He became the ruler here, and he came into power in 1799. And when he came into power, as I was telling you about the new administrative systems which he changed during his ruling period. So dear children, during his ruling period, he introduced a new system called Napoleonic Civil Code of 1804. And in his Napoleonic Civil Code of 1804, he developed the new systems, and in his new systems, he introduced the democratic structures in his administrations. And to make more efficient, he introduced this Napoleonic Civil Code, and according to this Napoleonic Civil Codes of 1804, we see some of the changes which he made during his ruling period, that is removing all privileges by birth, because during the time of kings and emperor, only the preference is given to the higher communities. But during his period, he removed all these privileges which was based on birth, and he secured the right to property, abolishing some feudal systems, freeing peasants from serfdom and manorial dues. At the same time, he introduced the guild systems, and he developed the transportation systems as well as these communication systems during his reign or during his ruling period, in order to provide better services to the society, because his period is known as one of the most important period which the French society they enjoyed during the time of Napoleon Bonaparte, because here the Napoleons, he introduced the Napoleonic Civil Codes, and wherever he was ruling, he was extending all his civil code to all his ruling area, and in his ruling area, his systems were strictly followed in the society. So as we are discussing about the Napoleonic Civil Code of this 1804, dear children, here we see some other changes also he made, that is making changes in universal laws, then introducing the standardized weight measures, and also making the common national currencies which will benefit the whole nations. So these are some of the changes which the Napoleon made during the time of his ruling. That is the reasons the French peoples who used to enjoy a lot during the ruling period of Napoleon, because all those peoples, they used to enjoy their life because of incorporating the democratic values in the societies, and due to that all the peoples in the society, they used to enjoy their life. They used to appreciate the Napoleon because during the most essential time he given protections to the nations, he stood for the nations, he developed the Napoleonic civil codes, he incorporated the democratic values. That is the reasons all the peoples who were there in the society, they enjoyed their lives here. So dear children, that is the reasons we see this Napoleonic era was one of the most important era in the world history, because the French peoples, they used to enjoy their life here. Thank you so much for listening to me.